So, how was your week so far? I I had a very interesting week last week. It was capped off at the end of the week on Friday, ish. Not that Friday is actually the end of the week, but you know what I mean. Um, I went on live television and did improv with two people who don't actually do improv, and therein is the reason for today's theme. What was I thinking? So first of all, I want to say a huge, oh my gosh, what a lovely human being you are. Good morning, Freddie. I want to say what a lovely human being you are, Derek Fage, and how much fun it is working with somebody who is, what is that? Okay, sorry. And working with somebody who is really quite fearless. Because it takes away it takes away a lot of anxiety about maybe we should have thought about this a little bit more, because you know what, it's 7 minutes. 7 minutes in the overall scheme of things. It's 7 minutes on a show in Ottawa. Really? Um, and mind you, I used to say that about the very beginnings of You Can't Do It on Television, and then I lived to say, however, and then we had this hysterically funny thing happen, in that we were joined. I didn't know we were going to be joined. I didn't know anything. Everything was kept from me as a secret, which of course begs retaliation, doesn't it? We were joined by a lovely fellow that I hadn't actually worked with before, named JT Morris, and he's involved with one of Ottawa's really terrific, really robust and dynamic semi pro theater companies, and this is a musical theater company. And so when Derek said on live television, so JT Morris from Orpheus Musical Theater is here. Uh, and I thought, oh, see, now we're going to go down a whole other rabbit hole that I kind of was hoping not to go, but never mind, carry on. And so what had happened was, in misconstruing the actual concept of improv, which is not the same thing as winging it. It might look like it, and it certainly did on Friday. But improvisation is an exercise in cutting out the middleman. And by the middleman, I mean the part of the brain that analyzes and overthinks. Improv, in its purest form, is receiving a message and responding to it instinctively, intuitively, allowing that very powerful brain at the back of your head to do its magic, to work its function. And the delight in that is that when you're presented with a trigger, which is the whole concept of improv, the delight is discovering in real time with everyone else where your subconscious brain goes, what it perceives that trigger to mean, and what it delivers for you with no warning. A part of that part of my brain is active a lot of the time, because I've been involved in improv for, I don't know, a million years. And what happens is somebody says something and you respond so fast that people think you're smart. What you are is quick. and it's that brain, but that brain is that quick. That brain is so quick that the thinking brain doesn't even know what is going on. And so true improv is you give people the parameters and then you throw something out there. The trick in that sentence is you give people the parameters. You give them all the parameters. You don't give them some of the parameters, because subconscious brain doesn't have enough to work with, doesn't have all the facts. So what happened was hysterically funny. And it's like not bad. Nothing about it was bad. It's just when it happened, I thought, oh yeah, okay. So we need to have this conversation, but clearly not now, on account of we're live. So, and it was a pure lighthearted, fun romp to see what it would be like for Derek Fage and Abby Hagyard on live TV to do some, mental tap dancing. And it was delicious. It was really a riot. And certainly JT stepped up to the plate and held his own in the most delicious ways and hysterically funny. So we broke a few rules on that day, and breaking them doesn't mean it's okay to break them. Breaking them means we know they exist, and we know why they exist, and we showed you what it looks like when you don't follow the rules. So for people who it could be a cautionary tale, as opposed to, hey, look what they got to do without it. Yeah, no, don't follow the cautionary tale. So what happened was we got a script from a current production that JT is actually directing, and it was a couple of sides. Sides are just a couple of pages of script. So Derek and I got these 2 pages, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know what the play was, right? And I hadn't, familiarized myself because surprise. So Derek said, so I play this and you play that. And it's 2 characters. His name is George and her name is Winifred. And so I'll be playing George, of course. And I said, why? And he said, what do you mean, why? And you're playing Winifred. And I said, who's Winifred? And he said, what do you mean, who's Winifred? She's one of the characters in the play, because of course he didn't know either. So, but if you don't know what their context, what their connection is to each other. So that could have been the first time JT jumped in. But I digress. So then we're reading the script. As soon as he told me the name of the play, I knew something. I knew that it was set in England. Okay, British accent. Haul it out and do my best. The crazy thing then that was delicious and lovely was that JT took it upon himself to actually direct us. And he interrupted us and walked on out of the wings, out of the darkness, into the mist, and said, and Derek said, how's it going? And he said, well, it's happening. So here's what I suggest. And it was funny because we needed somebody who was completely rude and ruthless. And JT stepped up and did a wonderful job. And then at the end, there was massive applause. Probably the most hysterical thing was the reaction of the other guests who were going to be appearing on the show, who didn't really know what to make of it because it was clearly all over the map. The great news is Derek had a wonderful time. The great news is I had a wonderful time. So we're going to do it again. Only this time, Derek and I are going to have a little chat about the principles of improv. My bad. And the reason we need to do that is why I'm going to talk about this topic today. What if everyone else failed to read the instructions? What if everyone else is actually just winging it? So the delicious story was that we had a great time, and it wasn't a complete waste of space because I learned a couple of valuable things, and we both had a lot of fun. And the group, I don't think we'd ever done it. I don't think Jared had ever done it, and he wants to do it again because it's highly addictive. It's really fun to test yourselves against somebody that you feel is a worthy competitor, partner, whatever. And I felt the same way. So we are going to do it again, and we're going to do it in the middle of November, and we'll come up with something. As I said, Derek and I will have a little chat about the principles, and then it'll take on a slightly different. I'm not going to say formal, because improv isn't formal, but it'll take on a slightly different, more purposed attack. And the reason I want us to do that, to try that, is what this is all about today. And when people make the mistake of thinking, how hard could that be? And they take it on, and it is considerably harder than they ever imagined, a couple of things happen. And one is disappointment. And the reason it's disappointment, there's also fear. There's also frantic tap dancing. There's also somebody yelling, go and get the fire extinguisher. I mean, there's all of that. But the most important thing is the disappointment in that how easy we thought it was going to be, and the exhilaration and the excitement and the anticipation ends up being kind of a letdown, kind of an oh. And all of a sudden we're that little kid who expected balloons and a pony at their party. And when the clown arrived, there were no balloons. And the pony was actually late and tired and disinterested. And when we're going to set ourselves up for anticipation, we're going to set ourselves up for an excitement and a good time, we owe it to ourselves to, famous last words, right? We owe it to ourselves to take the time to make sure we got the instructions. That saying, I got this, I don't need a map, and we end up arriving late and missing the big opening is such a deflation. It's such a disappointment when it is so easy to correct ahead of time. And part of that conversation, what if everyone else is just winging it, brings us around to this conversation I want to have today. Because some refining of the chapter headings in book 1 of the 7 books for Pivotry. Lots of work being done these days, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, humans of all shapes and sizes. Lots of really exciting refining going on. And I had the most incredible conversation with someone a couple of days ago. And I thought, you see, these conversations are coming, sort of like Bugs Bunny kissing us on the nose. It's a don't forget this point. Don't forget this. What if everyone else is actually winging it? What if we are the one in charge? What if we are tasked with the responsibility for their actions? Who owned the task of making sure everyone was on board? We did. Well, good morning, Charles. How nice to see you. What a great chat we had the other night. The conversation, what if everyone else is winging it and we are the ones in charge? What if the navigator is winging it and never read a map? What if the person who was tasked with making sure the car was ready for the road had never done it before, had no idea what fluids were needed, took a look, did a walk around and said, looks good to me, and got in? If we are in charge, and we are in charge, it's our lives. If we are in charge, we owe it to ourselves to make sure that we're not winging it too. We have to check that these people know what they're doing. I had a hysterical call last night, well, text call thing, from a buddy of mine. I had reached out and I said, Charles and Kat are coming to Ottawa. Is there anything going on at your club? And he said, yeah, we got this going on and I can meet you. He sends me a text last night and says, sorry, my bad. I just remembered that I'm actually on stage someplace else on Friday night. I won't be able to meet you. I replied, so many shows, so little time. And he said, I'm so embarrassed. And I said, don't be embarrassed. Thank goodness he remembered now. But he's a guy who doesn't wing it. He's a guy who always plans. That way, packing and getting ready for our trip. I got super good news for you. I'll tell you in Ottawa. Awesome, Charles. Good to hear. So all the things are coming into place. Oh, Charles, if you're watching, I'm going to send you a text, right? Because you need to have my contact information, right? So make sure you watch for it. Happy packing. So Charles and Kat are taking a vacation and they're flying up to northern New York. They're going to go to the falls. They're going to check and watch all the water going that way. And then they're going to get in a car and come up to Ottawa and see me. Yay! Who says you can't do that in Ottawa? Of course you can. So what if everyone else is winging it? The first thing you have to do, I believe, is look in the mirror and make sure you're not part of that team. Make sure you're not part of those people who are winging it. Make sure you're checking. Make sure you're trying to cover off on all the things that could go horribly wrong. You know, these sweet people are coming up to Ottawa, and so I'm planning stuff. And then I said, check the weather. What if it's raining? What are we going to do instead? Because we're clearly not going to go for a walk to look at the fall leaves, are we? If it's thundering rain, we're going to do something else. Can we do something else? Absolutely, it's Ottawa. But it's important to do that, right? It's that simple and important a thing to take care of. So my friend the other day said, I sometimes get the feeling that when people reach out to me, they're just winging it. They call, they don't really have anything they want to talk about. They call and they expect me to run the conversation. And I said, right. And she said, yeah, but they're the ones who called. And I said, so why do you think they called? She said, I don't know. I said, sure you do. What happened the last time they phoned? Did you take charge and say, oh, for heaven's sakes, and then lead the conversation? And she said, well, yes. And I said, there you go. There's an expectation that somebody else is going to do the heavy lifting. And it's not just from people who are slackers. It really isn't. It's from people who are not planning ahead. And that's the different thing from slacking. It's like the difference between winging it and improvisation. Improv has rules. Improv has structure. The structure and the rules of improv allow you this fabulous, incredible, layered experience of full freedom of connection and communication inside those boundaries. It allows you to tap into a part of your brain that we never really give credit to. And the reason I think this is so important to talk about is because this is the very foundation of pivotry and motion. Improv is at the heart of pivotry. Improv is not winging it. Improv is not crossing your fingers, closing your eyes, and hoping like hell. Improv is believing in our power to respond and own the moment. Fear-based stuff, which is also subconscious, fear-based stuff is survival. Okay, fear-based is always on the alert, always looking for a threat, always being ready to fight, flee, freeze, hide, comply. Those are the very, very fundamental basics in the back of our brain, because that's how that back of our brain kept us alive for so long. The more involved and interactive layers of the brain that are storing our more recent memories and our more recent responses and our more recent mindsets and behaviors is a lot more modern. Our more modern brain has learned how to drive. Our more modern brain can get us up in the morning and get us facing the front with most of the clothes on that we intended to wear, having brushed our teeth, and without using, hand cream instead of toothpaste. We have managed to remember to put sugar instead of salt in the coffee. We have managed to remember to bring the keys with us for the car. We don't actually stop and have to tell ourselves those things. That's the more modern part of our subconscious brain. So how it gets good and how it gets gooder at all of this retrieve and respond is practice. How we remain alert and sharp and engaged in the process is practice. How we are more aware of the people we're with and what we're allowing them to get away with is practice. Yep, accessing our powers is the goal of pivotry. That's right, Freddie. Accessing our ability to choose the right one at the right time for this moment is high-level stuff. And our subconscious brain is really slick at it. And it gets better and better the more we practice. And one of the reasons that this is so important is because it affects us every day and we don't realize it. And I want to segue a little bit because I want to talk about something really important that's happening tomorrow for me. And I know there's important things happening for everybody around the world all the time. There are seriously important things happening in all corners of the world tomorrow, every day, all the time. This just happens to be one of mine. So tomorrow, I have been given the nod to finally go and sign off on all of the final papers that tie up all the loose ends in closing the estate for my dear, sweet, wonderful friend. Ironically, tomorrow is the 18th, and it was the 18th of February that he died. So it is an anniversary on many levels, because the day he died was a day the process of establishing and clearing and approving and granting the power to close the estate began. And tomorrow we bring it to a close. And I've had a couple of difficult days. Once I had made the appointment, and they kind of snuck up on me and I didn't realize it. It of course, part of it is the anniversary. Part of it is that. But the more important thing that I hadn't realized until I was analyzing this conversation that I had with this crazy friend, wonderful friend of mine, and analyzing all of the best, all the best and the craziest and the oh my God moments in our 7 minutes live on Friday, was how easily and sneakily we are blindsided by something very, very important. And I want to share it with you because I think it bears writing down. It bears thinking about, because it's so, well, it's universal. It happens to all of us. And it's this. Something happens a million years ago. And I don't really mean a million. Something happens to us when we're 5, or when we're 5.5, or when we're 15, or when we're 35. And it's a moment. It's a thing we remember. It's an anchored point. It's one of those benchmark moments when, for some reason, it strikes us in just that way, and we say, huh. And that never goes away. What does go away is our memory of it, our memory of the power of that moment. We don't consciously have it here. It's stored there. And what we don't realize is that those moments are driving the bus a lot of the time. They are responsible for the assumptions we make. They are responsible for the if-then conversations that we have without thinking. We do this flawed math. And then the skewed conclusion we reach is the foundation on which we base our next steps and our next actions and our next behaviors and our next beliefs. And it takes one of those conversations that I had the other day for me to say, okay, but that makes no sense, right? And the person says, what do you mean? Of course it does. So it drew out from my memory bank one of these things that causes people to say, what is wrong with you? And I'll tell you the story. When people make a flawed assumption, when they say, if this, then that, and it feels right until you take those 5 steps back and examine it, and you think, well, for God's sake, that doesn't make any sense. And then you can go in and correct it. Most of us don't take those 5 steps back. We just keep moving on. I use this analogy all the time, 4 and 3 or 7. Yeah? Unless that day you happen to drive by a convenience store called 7-Eleven, and your brain would easily 4 and 3 or 11 without even paying attention. And your conscious brain says, yeah, that's right. And you keep going. Unless you say, wait a minute. No, it doesn't. Where the hell did that come from? And then you remember the trip. You stopped at the convenience store to get something. And you think. So here, I don't know what it's called. Somebody will tell me. Freddie, you probably know. When you have flawed logic, it's called something. When your if and your then don't connect in any way, shape, or form, except superficially. And therefore the outcome is crazy. That's called something. So here's the example, and that'll tell you. Freddie's very sharp, folks, just so you know. So this is the analogy I use. Back in the 1950s, Televisions were only in black and white, right? Only in black and white. There was no color. So here's the flawed logic. Penguins are black and white. Televisions are black and white. Therefore, penguins are televisions. So I do that in front of people and I smile that bright smile. And everybody, and I mean everybody, without exception, goes, "What is wrong with you?" But it gets their attention, doesn't it? And it allows me to say, fallacy? Is that what it is? Okay. Thank you, Freddie. So who needs Google? I have Freddie. So it is a fallacy that if penguins are black and white and televisions are black and white, penguins are televisions. That is a fallacy. That is an incorrect assumption. The fact that there is a convenience store called 7-Eleven doesn't mean that 7 is the same as 11. Hence 4 and 3. And all those confusing questions from the tax people when they're going through my returns. Why do you keep doing this? And I say, I got to stop at a different convenience store. That's all there is to it. So we do things by habit. Remote response, knee-jerk, non-thinking, a lot of the time. And the reason we do that is we would lose our minds if we weren't capable of doing that. Where we have to occasionally check in to make sure that we're doing it right is exactly in situations like this. If someone calls and says, "So, what do we talk about?" right after we've said hello, if we scramble and feel guilty that we weren't ready, that's our bad. Our good would be saying, "How the hell would I know? You called me." However, if we're put on the spot, it's easy for us to be overwhelmed and distracted and blindsided by guilt and shame and blame and all kinds of other stuff that maybe was part of our memories from the past. Then we'd spend all our time trying to satisfy the random, not even needs, the random cravings of people who can't be bothered to get up and get the remote from the other side of the room and change the channel themselves. So I know that this particular recording this morning is all over the map. And it's all over the map because that's what it looks like. That's how it feels when the person in charge chose to wing it. This is my example of what that looks like and what that feels like. There's things that sort of connect. But where's the instructions? How do we put it together? Where's that IKEA Allen key that allows us to make all that happen? Oh, I thought you were bringing it. Why didn't you bring it? Well, because it's your video. You're the one running it. I'm the one watching. And I'm not making any sense of it. You can't expect me to make sense of all of them, can you? Yeah, they're your videos. Why would I have that conversation with you? And why would you have that conversation with me? You're busy. I'm busy. If I did a bad video, you would be disinclined to watch the next one. You might be inclined to forgive me if I felt and looked and sounded distracted and began by apologizing and saying I'm all over the map. You might be inclined to forgive me because you've enjoyed the videos before. However, you're busy. Life makes its demands. And I think Freddie's so cool. And I think what we need to start doing is this. It's fairly simple. It's not complicated. There's not a lot of steps. I think we need to do a check. I think we need to simply say, have I got what I need? just before we walk out the door, even if we're in a hurry, I think we need to stop and say, have I got what I need? Head, keys, wallet, ID, clothes. Okay. I think we need to do that. And the reason I think we need to do that is because we have allowed ourselves to become so distracted these days that we are forgetting that we are in charge. It's our life. The person who's with us all the time is us. Who's looking after us? Well, we are, unless we don't think it's necessary. And why would we not think it's necessary? Why would we ever at any time for a single second say, it's good enough? For us? Really? When we're the one who's always with us, always there, always the first to care? If we don't give ourselves permission to be special, to take care of us, what else matters, really? And I care. I care about me. I care about you. I care about a lot of people and a lot of things. I care about finding the best. I care about creating the best. Every single day when I look around this sweet little nest that I've built, I am so grateful for this opportunity. I'm so grateful when I hear from one of my friends, people I really enjoy. And the crazy thing was, I was actually, I don't want to say dreading the meeting tomorrow, but I was bracing myself for it. And I suddenly realized that that was the wrong way to be facing. I shouldn't be bracing myself for completion. I know what it's like to bring my best to the game. Instead of bracing myself, I'm owning that final sprint. It's my sprint. At the very beginning of this journey, I had this incredible conversation with Lisa Ann Robinson, who packed and moved me. And she's based in Ottawa, and she does an incredible job. She packs out of city and out of province, and she does the most valuable thing you can imagine, on top of doing her best to make sure our stuff is safe. She makes sure we understand that she cares. She makes sure that we understand how upsetting and frightening and confusing and off balance it feels to be transitioning. She gets it. She has moved a million times. And she said, I got you. And the thing was, we were having this video conversation, and she was looking me in the eyes, and I realized she meant it. All I had to do was trust her that she wasn't out of her mind, except that I had reference and reviews from all kinds of people I already knew. And so when she came and she did the thing she said she would, I am so grateful to her, because she reminded me that we own the leap. We own the leaping curve. When we go from here to there, there's a very small, tiny split second when we defy gravity, because both feet are off the ground simultaneously. It's true, especially if you're running. It happens every step you take. And what she was trying to remind me, and what I'm reminding you of, because it reminded me last night, is that tomorrow is an opening door. Today, I am one step away from that threshold. Today, and yesterday, and the day before that, and the day that I booked the appointment, are me gearing up for that moment tomorrow, when I cross that threshold, when I put my hand on the knob of that opening door. Mine to own. I have the instructions. I read them carefully. And no matter what the other folks bring, I got this. I got this. And I am very, very eager to help them feel safe with me. Because this is mine to own. As is your day, yours to own. And all of the things that we see in the news, all the things that we're hearing about that are uncertain and scary, and some of them tragic, they are not ours to own. They are there. What is ours to own is our role, our purpose, our path. And if those events are impacting the people we meet and mingle and connect with, what is ours to own is to understand, is to reach out and say, are you okay? Let me know if you need a hug. It is ours to own to reach out and say, you got this because I got you. That is how it works when we have done the homework. We've read the instructions for the small steps leading up to the big stuff. If we don't do the homework and we don't prepare ourselves, we show up late, we're disorganized, and we never get to fully live in this moment. We never get to fully own what's going on. We never get to do what happened to us on Friday, looking at each other, Derek and I, saying, all righty then. And JT saying, okay, kids, there's nowhere to go but up. And I promise you, if you tuned in and you said, what on earth am I watching? It's going to get much more interesting from here. I promise. So with that, I'm going to love you and leave you. How long have we been here? It's only 40 minutes coming up. So it's going to be short today because I have stuff to do this afternoon in preparation for tomorrow. I want to truly be the one with the instructions in hand that I have already read. I want to know how to actually use the technology in the car that tells me where I'm going. In the rain, on a side road, somewhere in the country. I want to not do that ever again. So what I want to leave you with is this. We deserve the very best. How we receive the very best is by being the very best. By being the truest, best version of us right now. Because once we do that, no reaching, no chasing, no hoping, just doing and being. Thank you, Freddie, you too. Just by being and doing and owning this moment, we already have the best given to us. And like attracts like. So keep that thought with you. And when you get the hint, when you get the idea, when you get that funny loose toothishness sensation that everybody else at the table is winging it, it's not yours to own. If they can't decide what to order, don't wait. Order yours. Could I have mine now? If they weren't ready and they didn't show up, there's no need for you to wait. Oh, I don't want them to feel bad. They don't feel bad. They're not even here. Remember, who has your back? You do. Me too, but you're closer. So let's start with you. Does that seem like a reasonable thing? Good. I'm glad. So I will be thinking of you on the drive tomorrow to get where I need to go. And I will be hoping that you are owning your day the way I plan to own mine. And seize the moment gladly and say, hello, opportunity. Come on in. And let's see what magic the two of us, the three of us, all of us can create when we put our minds to it. Are you in? Good. So between now and when I talk to you on Thursday, you know the drill. Be good to you. You deserve it. Remember to hug your loved ones. They really deserve it too. Okay. So, and I always say, it is incredible that you come and watch these with me, that you share your time, that you take your time to be part of this. What it means to me is that I'm on the right track. What it means to me is that you're going to be ready for the Pivot Tree experience, and we're going to be able to walk that path together. This is kind of like the warm-up. These are the rehearsals. And I'm loving these rehearsals, and I can't wait for the big show to begin. So I will see you on Thursday. Thanks for watching.